This is the one that
You haven't grown up in this town, I do like it. And I also grew up in Boston, so I know people are really just fans.
So the following, all Bernardsville Borough Planning Board meetings will be held in person in the meeting hall on the second floor of the Bernardsville Municipal Building at 166 Brook Road. These meetings will be live streamed on YouTube with no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to offer comments or ask questions will be required. To attend meetings in person. YouTube live stream access for all meetings is on YouTube at Bernardsville Borough/streaming. This link will also be available on the agenda for each meeting, which is posted on the Borough website, bernardsvilleborough.org, and on the Borough Hall Public Bulletin Board at least 48 hours prior to meetings. Notice of these changes has also been emailed to the Bernardsville News and the Courier News by posting a copy on the Bernardsville Borough website and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk on January 16th, 2024. It's the intention of the board not to continue any matter past 11 p.m. of any regular or special meeting of the board unless the motion is passed by the members on present to extend to a later specified cutoff. And same shall be announced at the opening of each meeting. In addition, the board does not intend to begin a new hearing after 10 p.m. nor begin testimony with a new witness after 10:30 p.m. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. The quorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DeMarco?
Present.
Ms. Gardner is absent. Ms. Geller? Present. Mr. Graham?
Here.
Mr. Horowitz?
Here.
Mr. McQueen is absent. Mr. Simoff?
Here.
Mr. Walden?
Here.
And Mr. Zazarino?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Anything on the meeting minutes?
No, I haven't sent an
Yeah.
email. They're
So we're
not ready.
not ready yet. Okay. No communications. Are there any visitors here that want to discuss anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Don't see any. Whole business. Resolution for adoption, the Benjamin Ziegler and Catherine O'Connor, lot line adjustment. Steve?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a resolution there, hopefully accurately memorializes the minor subdivision approval for lot 1415. That was unanimously granted by the board at our last meeting. It was a fully conforming minor subdivision approval, multiple conditions of approval. I highlight on page 5, conditions 4, 5, and 6. The minor subdivision plan would be revised to actually reflect the Claremont Road address of the adjacent lot owner, and also to accurately reflect the blocks and lots, recognizing that lot 14 may have 2 street addresses. I think frankly, it's not even may, I think it does have 2 street addresses, in that it's a duplex, if I recall correctly. And also that the minor subdivision plan shall be revised to reflect the setbacks required in both zones, R4 and R5, as applicable. So hopefully the resolution accurately memorializes the board's determination. And you will let me know if it does.
And council,
council went through it, our board of professionals went through it, everyone had input and revisions and, they were all agreed to.
All right,
So this is the final product.
I'll take a motion for a vote.
Motion.
Second. Got that for me?
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Geller? Yes. Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Walden?
Yes.
And Mr. Zazarino?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Under new business. And feel free to correct me if I err on the agenda. The new business, we have the bills. I just had one question, for, Bob Riley, for Boswell, is this, are these fees kind of related to the updates we've got on the, affordable housing lots?
Yeah, we've got recently resolution compliance reviews on all three of those.
Right, I mean, that's, one of the outcomes is the stormwater adjustments that they're seeking, right?
Stormwater, revised stormwater management plans were submitted,
Okay,
revised site plans.
okay, no, that's great. Is 63 Bernards? No, that's,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do have, if I may.
you have the packet, so.
Yes,
So,
you got everything from today and, we did have on the agenda as an item, all three, 63 Bernards, Minebrook Road and 18 Mount Airy. And actually, as it turns out, there was one, proposed revision to be made, with respect to
As well.
stormwater management conditions,
right,
that apply essentially equally to the Minebrook Road and the 18 Mount Airy Road. Those two amended preliminary and final major site plan approvals for those respective affordable housing.
yeah, no, I just had a question about the billing, that's all.
I'm sorry?
I just had a question about the bill.
Oh, about the bills?
Yeah, we're on the bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's jump in. I'm glad, because I usually make it.
I'm sorry, I heard 63 burners, yeah. I got all wound up.
You get a free jumper there. Right?
Any other questions with regard?
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
on Wakefield Management, that's the apartment building next to the fire stations.
Yes,
Is there something coming up on that? I thought we were done with that.
they have completed resolution compliance, Oh, yeah, I'm not sure that we have signed plans. I think that resolution compliance has been.
I think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, I see it built some time from that. I was just wondering what that.
Yeah, no, it's, there was a few issues relating to the fire officials' comments. They had, well, some stormwater review also.
Yeah, the notes are resolution compliance review of plans and file documents, prep engineer's estimate, update developer's agreement.
Yeah, that estimates for bonding.
Maintenance.
Actually prepared the draft development agreement.
Okay. Cool. Starting brilliant. All right, I'll think, any other questions?
Move to pay the bill.
All right, one second. Roll call?
Hey, Mr. Marco?
Yeah.
Ms. Geller? Yes. Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Simoff?
Yeah.
Mr. Walden?
Yes.
And Mr. Zazarino?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Now, if you would like to, post approval of compliance issues.
wind me back and then will rerun me. But,
So we were listening to you.
yeah, no, thank you, thank you. Yes, now we're up to the post-approval compliance issues, I hope. As it turns out, there is one related, I guess, or a couple of related stormwater management conditions with respect to the Mine Brook Road and the 18 Mount Airy Road sites on our agenda 2B and C. And applicant's counsel is here. They've made a request for the modifications. Mr. Bradley and I have had an opportunity to discuss them with applicant's counsel and the representatives in anticipation of a modification to those respective conditions and those respective resolutions. We've provided the board not only with the letters that we received requesting those changes, but also a resolution incorporating those changes so that if it is the pleasure of the board to adopt them, we can adopt them by way of resolution immediately this evening. So maybe it's best, as always, if I stop talking and allow you to hear from applicant's counsel and representative to present their request, and we can go from there.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, Craig Genetti of the law firm Dave Pitney. On behalf of the applicant, Mine Brook Road Urban Renewal Associates LP. On the agenda, it's listing all three sites, but Mr. Warner correctly noted, it is in relation to the Mine Brook Road site and the 18 Mount Airy Road site. We included with our request a modification of conditions of approval, particularly condition 3 Romanet 22C of the 18 Mount Airy resolution and condition 2 Romanet 9H, which deal with references stormwater management rules which we comply or are required to comply with, and it references a DEP regulation that relates to major developments and the requirements associated with major developments. And this is actually a minor, or it's not a major development under DEP rules. So we're looking to modify that condition and use the language basically that applies to developments that are not major developments, that we will agree to ensure that post-development peak runoff rates do not exceed the pre-development peak runoff rates for the 2, 10, and 100-year storms. So they both kind of relate to the same issue. Recall, these are 3 100% affordable housing projects. These two in particular, we're dealing with the 26 units on Mine Brook and 12 on Mount Airy. These projects are receiving affordable housing production funds, and we're under a tight time frame. Those funds have been allocated to the project, and we're in a tight time frame when those funds have to be spent, which means the building has to get built. So basically everything else with resolution compliance is taken care of. This was the only outstanding item, and we discussed it with professionals, and they felt it was best to come to the board, seek a modification since it was specifically referenced in the conditions of approval. I think our engineer's letter kind of speaks for itself, but if you have any questions of me or your professionals with respect to the condition.
Just want to ask Bob Bradley, does he agree with the comment?
Yeah, so both these two properties are minor stormwater developments, and the original, stormwater report, I don't know if it was intended to be that way. They referenced a standard, specifically NJC 7:8-5.6 B1, which is a requirement for major development. And these projects are both minors. So they're having some issues, unable to meet the minor development standard with infiltration. So as an alternative, we're proposing to reduce the peak rate by putting a detention system in. And we feel that, for a minor project, that's a reasonable standard. They are going to be tying into the DOT system, so I know the DOT is reviewing their drainage counts. I haven't seen their comments, but they are reviewing it, so.
So that would, so definitely block 80, 163 are we doing one at a time or the two together? Is, you know, the
I
second,
think it's really the same issue,
right,
and the primary change is the same.
is, right,
For each, it's a substitution of what Bob just said, that the peak runoff rates should not exceed the pre-development peak runoff rates for the 2, 10, and 100-year storm events is being substituted in for that
right.
NJHC provision
But
in each.
additionally, for block 124, is the second item.
Yeah, that's
It's the
that's the
same
only change on, I call it the Minebrook Road one, I'm not tracking the
No, no,
lots.
18 Mount Airy. Mount Airy has a secondary request.
Right, and those are additional
Similar
changes.
justification. but
Exactly.
Second, and you're okay with that too?
Yeah, so I think what happened is when they got preliminary approval, some of the conditions from the preliminary approval got rolled into the amended approval, so that condition is repeated twice. I'm not sure, is that in the Mount Airy one?
Yeah, that's
That's the
18
Mount Airy.
Mount Airy.
Mount
That
Airy.
condition's kind of repeated twice in the
Okay.
resolution, but only one.
So both will get addressed by
Right, but it's
remedial.
carried through from the original
Okay.
preliminary.
So you agree that this is not a major project?
These two projects, 63, I don't think there's any changes we're
Correct.
talking about for 63. That's a major development.
Not a major.
That is 63.
But we're not asking
there
anything,
yet.
yeah, we're not asking anything for 63.
It's on the agenda, but
Yes.
It's usually my job to confuse the board, not
no
yours.
changes there. B and C, these two projects are minor developments. They have a large parking lot on both of them. So it's a condition that
And we didn't impose what some more rigorous standard was applicable.
actually, it was in their report that they can't do the recharge, they were gonna do the hydrograph, which is a major development standard, and it just kind of got carried through the resolutions.
All right.
Can I ask one question? It's just referencing you throw out $100,000 and $50,000. Did anyone ever see any paperwork suggesting that these numbers were accurate, that it is in fact a hardship?
Well, I think, well, but why don't you add, and I'll.
Sure.
Because
I
I
think,
looked for it and I didn't see it.
yeah, there was no paperwork submitted, it was just the estimate, and just a ballpark estimate from our engineer. But it's not necessarily, I think it was just highlighting the additional cost, but it's not a hardship requesting, it's not applicable. The
Well, it says it
requirements.
needs financial hardship on the property. That's why. I
If
asked.
we were stuck to comply with the regulation, that's not applicable to us.
Yeah, that's, by the way, that's not relevant.
I would agree with the chair, I think that
Okay.
BTW would be the acronym. It wasn't necessary, frankly, in my opinion, to point out the additional financial hardship that they would
Yeah.
suffer. It's from an engineering perspective, it makes sense to make those changes.
Or I think Bob has said, the regulation that was in the original is not the right regulation.
Not necessarily applicable, correct?
Or the fact that it's a 6-unit, a 12-unit and a 26-unit, they're not major, the appropriate regulation is the one that's in the proposed resolution.
I think there was some in the very beginning on Minebrook, whether that was a major or a minor, depending on what the limit of disturbance was, so.
But you're comfortable now?
Yeah, I think it would be unreasonable to put a major development standard on a minor development project.
But we're pretending no one mentioned money.
Irrespective of the BTW financial hardship.
Okay, do we do one motion at a time?
If you would, but since we have two separate projects, and everyone is entitled to vote because this is a modification of the condition, whether you voted or not on the original application, just focusing on the request to make this one
Change.
these changes.
So we'll do B first, which is the Minebrook Road, block 80.
Right, and you have resolution there, that's sort of a straightforward swap of the language.
Yep.
Are both of them called Minebrook urban renewal?
The applicant's the same.
So it's application 242.
242, and if you look down at the end of that first paragraph, you'll see it's Minebrook Road as opposed to the other one that at the end says 18 Mount Airy Road.
So I will move the application or the resolution for application number SP 242 to make the changes related to the stormwater regulation.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Ms. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Simoff,
Yes.
Mr. Walden,
Yes.
and Mr. Zazarino.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And then I will move the second one, which is resolution for application number SP 243, which is also a resolution amending the prior approval to update or correct the regulations for stormwater management.
I'll second.
Mr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Ms. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Horowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Simoff,
Yes.
Mr. Walden,
Yes.
and Mr. Zazarino.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. It was nice seeing you.
You're not doing anything with A 63?
No, there were, this issue did not arise and no other issue arose that, it was a compliance matter that needed to be.
It's just on the board.
Yeah,
All right.
we weren't, frankly, we weren't quite sure, exactly what, if anything, was coming to the board 48 hours ago, so, as a protective measure, we put all three out there. And we were able to resolve everything else.
All right, great. We are now moving into the public hearings. And the first hearing is Michael and Heather Temple, which is 42 Maple Street, lot 113, lot 15, speaking of subdivision of Little, create one new lot for a single family dwelling. Welcome.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Kurt Schrinter. I'm an attorney at Kelso and Burgess down in New Brunswick. I'm here representing Mr. Eckel today with the subdivision application. Mr. Eckel is here. If the board has any questions of him tonight, he's available. But also brought two professionals with us. We have an engineer, Mr. Stephen Parker, and a land use planner, Mr. John Chadwick.
Counselor, do me a favor. So if you step back, just for the video recording, there's an X over there that if you stand over there, you're better off on me. There you go.
Got it.
You get it? You have to hit your mark.
Yeah. Otherwise, who's ever watching gets a view
I
of
was
the
following,
third
I was following the active one, so.
There you go. And feel free to use the table for your.
Great, thank you. So, I mean, essentially, I'm assuming you're gonna want to hear from the engineer, at least first explain what the subdivisions are and the minor variances that are gonna be addressed.
And we have a couple of predicate issues with the chair's permission, we could run through them right now. First, I did review the notice, found the content to be sufficient, found to be timely served, certified mail on September 27, published on September 26, both at least 10 days prior to this evening pursuant to at least my math. So the board does have jurisdiction to hear and decide the application this evening. I'm happy to swear in the two witnesses that we know we're gonna hear from, as well as our board professionals with the chair's permission, so if you'll all raise your right hand, do all of you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you all. And then I think from here on in, it's the applicant's case to present.
Great, thank you. So the first witness I suppose we'll have talk is the engineer, Mr. Stephen Parker. Mr. Parker, would you at least give the board the benefit of your qualifications?
Yeah, I'm a licensed engineer, state of New Jersey. I've been the owner of Parker Engineering and Surveying for 25 years. Prepared an application similar to this one, that's before the board right now. In fact, I appeared before this board last month, for another similar application. Yeah, accepted. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and describe the application that's before the board this evening. It's a minor subdivision application. It's an existing home. It's located actually at the corner of the intersection of three streets. They are Liberty Road, Pine Street and Maple Street. There's an existing house on the property, a detached garage, and the proposal is to subdivide the property from one lot into two lots. The existing home and improvements will remain on one lot, and the new lot, which is vacant right now or will be vacant, is for the construction of a new home. The overall property is about just over 17,500 square feet. It's in the R5 zone. The proposal is for the existing home and improvements to remain on lot 15, what we're calling lot 1501, which is just over 10,000 square feet. And the new lot, which is the vacant property, will be 7,500 square feet, both of which are substantially over the required minimum of 5,000 square feet in the zone. The area has public utilities, there's sewer and water available. The existing home is already connected, and the proposed home will be connected to those utilities also. There are some existing non-conformances or variance conditions related to setbacks for the home and the garage. And then there are a couple of new variances that are being proposed as well with regards to lot width and floor area ratio. And there's another witness, Mr. Chadwick, who'll go over the variances in more detail when he's testifying. But it's a very basic application. Like I said, it's a minor subdivision. One lot, creating one new lot, I should say, that conforms. The new lot is totally conforming to the zone requirements. And there's a letter that's been prepared by Mr. Brightly that's dated August 13th of 2024. And we can review that with the board and go over those items that he brings up. And so this is the letter dated August 13th, 2024. And on page 1 of that letter is really the first page, the first 4 comments. I'm sorry, the first 3 comments are just about the subdivision itself. Talks about what's being proposed, what's existing, and what the new lot layout will look like. But then from starting on comment number 4, Mr. Brightly goes through the existing nonconformities and then what the proposed variances are as well. And as I said, letters A, B, C, and D are existing conditions that will remain unchanged because the house is not being proposed to be moving. Those are front yard setbacks. Looking at this, another lot, garage setback to the front yard, garage setback to the side yard. And then the proposed variances are for the lot width of lot 15.01. 50 feet is required across the entire width at all points. At one point, it'll be 43.13. That's at the easterly side of the lot. You'll see the 43.13 foot dimension. And then the floor area for lot 1501, that's with the existing home. 3,205.9 square feet is what's allowed based upon the calculations. And the letter, Mr. Bray's letter indicates it's 3,500 square feet is existing. That's actually an error. And we discovered that after we had submitted the plans to the board. It's actually less than that right now. What happened is there's a front porch on that house. We counted that twice, but it's only a 1-story porch. So that number, 3,500 square feet actually goes down to, it's a little bit smaller. It goes down to 3,229 square feet. It's still a variance. It's still over what is allowed by about 23 square feet. So the variance is still required for that, but it's a much smaller variance than what we had proposed before. So, and moving on down through the letter from Mr. Brightly, comment number 5 is some suggestions about additional information to be included on the plan. We can certainly include all that information. No issues with any of that. Comment number 6 is a comment. There's a tank lid indicated in the front yard of proposed lot 15.02. That's part of an old septic system. So that will be abandoned, filled in and properly abandoned in accordance with health department requirements for that. Comment number 7 talks about utility connections. There are proposed, the existing connections or the connections for the existing house are on that lot. They'll be on lot 15.01. They're going to stay the way they are, remain unchanged. And lot 1502
will be connecting to the sewer and water in front of that property. Comment number 8 in the letter on the next page is about just stormwater management. There will be a stormwater management review required at the time the building permit is applied for, when we know the exact house and driveway configuration that's gonna be out there. That will, of course, have to comply with at that time, but it doesn't require an approval of the board. That's something the engineer would review prior to the issuance of a building permit. Comment number 9 is a great comment. We should check with Mr. McDowell about the location of any sewer stubs that may be in front of the property, so we don't have to cut the pavement, if that's possible. We'll certainly look into that and do that if that's available. Comment number 10 says meets and bounds inscriptions should be provided for the new lots. Those will be provided for review before filing to Mr. Bartley, and then the deeds will be reviewed by Mr. Warner for those get filed as well. And then, of course, any approval from Somerset County or Somerset County Planning Board or Soil Conservation District will be submitted, securely submitted to the board. They're not necessary right now. Well, this would be exempt from Somerset County Planning Board. Somerset Union is not required right now, but will be at the time the building permit is applied for, and they'll have to get that approval at that time. So that's the letter from Mr. Bartley. Those are really all the comments that I have about that, unless there's any other questions from the board.
Doesn't the county have to review the subdivision?
They'll look at it, but this is an exempt project for them. It's not on the county road. And it doesn't affect any county drainage facilities, so they'll get an exemption letter.
Okay.
If I may follow up on that one question, I apologize for speaking out of turn, if I can have your permission, Mr. Chairman. I did notice that there was a December 31, 2020, County of Somerset Planning Board letter, goes back a little ways, with respect to what appears to be this proposed subdivision. It was submitted with the application materials. Anybody want to fill us in on that? It essentially indicated that the board anticipates approving the project once the condition of approval below is satisfied. It's really just recycling. It's basically fees and filing requirements.
I'm not aware of that, but
It was in the package,
we'll certainly,
and I got it.
we'll
It
comply
says
with that.
Echo has the. I think somebody might know that.
Yeah, it started back.
You might want to talk to. Council can make a representation, we can swear in the gentleman, whatever, however you want to handle it.
What would you consider? We, as a part of what was required, the initial. No, subdivision.
I mean, I can make a representation on behalf of my client that he originally submitted subdivision plans back in 2020. It's his understanding that the town required that letter.
Okay, I mean, look, the bottom line is they're agreeing to provide the county planning, but they have to get all outside agency approvals. The only question is do they still need it or not? How far along are they in the process is what I'm, but we're still gonna need to do it.
But I think the more important point is that the review from the county back then was that it was not on a county road and it didn't require
Right.
infrastructure. That was only fees. I don't think the road changed or anything else changed. You might just need to update that letter.
Right, yeah, I don't think the answer's gonna change any.
Right, you might want to update that prior.
We'll make sure that.
And another question, how many bedrooms are in the existing house?
Yeah, it's an old house.
I swear him in. and make-
Yeah, no, just swear, you can answer
Sure,
this
please raise your
question.
right hand, you swear to God or affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And name and address for the record, please.
Mike Eckel, 42 Maple Street, Bernardsville, New Jersey. It's an old house. A lot of the rooms don't have bedrooms. So it's kind of hard to specifically tell you how many bedrooms, but there's upstairs, there's 5 rooms. And there's an additional room with a closet on the first floor.
Well, my question is based on bedrooms, give you a parking count. They want to know site has room for the required parking based on our science.
So if I understand correctly, well, I'm sort of really prospectively to what the feasibility of being able to have a second home with a certain amount of bedrooms.
No, the existing,
In addition to the existing.
well, no, the existing will have to have will have to conform to RSIS.
Well, I guess they'll both have to conform, but.
I mean, the proposed has to conform when they file the building plans, but the existing house has a requirement based on bedroom count. I'm trying to figure out what the requirement is. And then it is shown on the site plan.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that you can fit at least 3 cars comfortably on on that lot. 2 in the driveway and then 1 in the garage.
So let me just ask it this way. So after the subdivision, right? Your answer was that there'd still be on the existing house, the ability to park 3 cars?
Yes,
Okay. And you don't use, I'm gonna jump to Mr. Apple for a second if I can. You don't use that proposed subdivided lot, that the one that you want to subdivide off? Do you ever use that for parking at all?
No, it's an open lot. It's basically like a backyard.
Okay.
So the driveway is off of Liberty, since it's a corner lot.
But I just want to understand for the record that the existing building doesn't utilize that proposed subdivided lot for parking or any purpose at
That
all,
is correct, yeah.
right? That your current use, and how long have you had the property?
2006.
Okay, so since you've owned it, you've parked only on the existing,
That's right.
within what's gonna be the remaining lot.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
When you build a house on the newly created lot, 22, which way is the house gonna face?
it's gonna face Maple.
And where's the driveway and the garage gonna be, or haven't you thought that through there?
Well, the driveway would be off of Maple as well.
Really?
For lot 1502.
Oh, you thought of that carefully, that you're gonna have the drive in the front of the house,
Yeah, I mean, that's the
as
only
opposed
frontage.
to running off Garibaldi.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is to come up with Maple, that's the frontage for the lot. There's no
So
change.
you're gonna, like, we set back the house quite a bit from Maple, so that you'll have sufficient, and you're gonna front load the garage.
Right.
Interesting.
Is that property goes back to Garibaldi?
That's, no, it doesn't, I'm sorry, that's, never mind. Sorry, I was thinking that was the street, but
And
back there, it's not, good point.
what size house do you think could fit within a new lot?
Well, the floor area, maximum floor area would be about 2,800 square feet.
And that's
So,
in 2 stories?
2 stories. Yeah, so we're not proposing any variances for that, it would be a conforming, home.
Okay, so you believe the new structure and the new lot can be built without any additional variance?
Yes,
I have a question, the letter from Boswell that you were reading, was not the same letter that is in the file. Because the number, the least the paragraph number is different.
Was there more than one letter? Sometimes
Well,
there
there was more than one letter, but I think August 13 was the last one I saw.
Because this letter is dated May 3rd.
So
Council,
he's going from the second letter, because there were revisions.
The second letter is not, not on file for that time.
On the website?
Yeah.
Could be, I'll check, it's in my file,
May 3rd one is there.
but I can check.
On the third.
Yeah.
Well, there weren't 3, there were 2.
No, only the only one that's on the website that I could find was the May 3rd, and that's the one I read during this meeting.
Okay, so
We
maybe
want to be
there was
careful
an
to
error.
Make sure that we have the current documents on the website.
you need to update the website. With the office.
I understand that, yeah, but I thought it was already on there, but I'll check it.
Yeah, they addressed some of the original comments from the May letter.
Well, it sounded like right, it sounded like.
Okay, I've got another question. The oil filler on the existing property, on the surviving lot, It just has an oil filter cap in the survey. It doesn't have the location of the oil tank or any oil line surveyed. And it's unlikely that it would be on the new lot, but it can't be on the new lot.
Correct.
So I would say you need to actually show that it's where it is, roughly, it can't be on that lot line. I don't know if there's any setback requirement for an oil tank.
No, that's true.
Okay, well,
No, but
It's right here.
Mr. Chairman, it can't be on the other law.
right,
It can't be on proposed lot 1502.
yeah, so located. Speaking of 15, I've always seen it as the residual lot keeps its number and the new lot gets 1501, but
It's generally how we're just going
That's-
to leave that up to the assessor.
They changed that.
they changed the rules. like-
Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
so, well, they're showing me, all right, so. Anyway, I don't know, what should we be requesting? Will you just capture it, that they'll confirm that
That the oil
the
tank,
tank is not?
yeah, cannot, it must be shown not to be located on proposed lot 1502.
Okay,
And I think that's part of the requirement of a survey with needs and bounds description, and that has to be called out on the survey.
Right.
and there's no requirement, to your knowledge, for any check of oil leakage, any of that kind
Well,
of.
that'll happen if they have to remove it, then there'll be remediation.
Or they suspect it, or whatever, we're not obligated to. Okay, no, just trying to be sure. And I think we asked this, but it says number 42, so I'm guessing that's 42 Maple, right? And is that the perceived front of the house?
Yeah.
I know you have the drive in the back.
Yeah,
But
front of the
if I were to
house
look at the
is-
house and say, yeah, that's the thing, if I have to pick, I know you got two sides,
Yeah.
three sides actually. That's
Technically, the
it.
front is Maple.
Okay, so it's not actually on Pine Street. Pine Street is Pine and Maple and Liberty are the three streets that
Correct.
are touching this property. Okay.
So what was the variances that you were requiring?
Mr. Chairman, we'll go over those in more detail.
Yeah, if the board's done with Mr. Parker and engineering questions, I can introduce Mr. Chadwick. He can address the variances.
And the record will just reflect that the public was asked if they had any questions, and there is no public.
On a lot like this, I know this is really oddly shaped, is this two frontage or three frontage
Three
and one and two sides? Or there's no rear in this?
No, on 42, it's only, you have front yard and the side yard. Yeah, no rear.
There's no rear yard,
No, and you have frontage on 3 streets, but they're all front.
they're all
You just-
front,
Yeah, you just draw that line.
and there's no rear,
I don't.
just sides.
Sides.
Every corner lot.
And so we treated more, yeah, we treated.
I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
On a normal corner lot, not, this is a little, I'm sure, but
It
a
has,
normal corner lot, there's two fronts and two sides, right?
correct, it's still a corner.
The corner lot provision is really hard to apply and to do the math on this lot.
But you have to.
I know you do, because it's not, the house doesn't parallel any of these, except the Maple Street doesn't parallel.
Yeah, I mean, they show the building envelope on 42 and you see how constrained it is because of the side, the configuration of the lot and because of the way the house is situated.
But in a
Property.
normal lot, though, it's two fronts and two sides, not two fronts and two rears.
2 fronts, 2 sides.
Okay.
Yeah, corner lot.
On a corner, on a normal
And I
corner
treated
lot.
this and I looked at this.
Okay, okay, great. Sorry.
Nope, we're good. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Chadwick. Mr. Chadwick, would you be able to describe to the board your qualifications and
Okay. I've known him for a very long time.
Don't take that away, I accept your voucher. I guess you're.
Well, your license is current?
I can accept.
Oh, wait, we don't want a conflict situation.
I've been providing services to municipalities and private clients for several decades. And I have known one of the board members for that time period. I haven't appeared in front of this board in a couple of years, at least. But you serve a lot of municipalities, Somerset, Morris, Middlesex.
How's that professional planning license in good standing?
Professional planning license is good standing.
Mr. Schreiber, what is your first name? for the-
John.
John, thank you. Traditional spelling, John?
Yes. Chadwick traditional as well.
If he's swearing in.
You've gone over the details.
I think the chairs accepted you as an expert.
I accept.
Now you have one board under your belt now.
You've gone over the details of what's going on here. It's kind of an unusual one from a planning standpoint. We start out with a property that's significantly oversized for zone. And the proposed lots as well, it's 5,000 square foot requirement. One's 7,500, almost 50% greater, and the other's almost 10,000, or a little over 10,000. Which is almost double the lot size. The variances, in terms of lot depth, as a result of the subdivision for the home on the existing lot, is that narrow portion of the lot on the east side. That comes down to 43 feet, but you can see the majority of the lot is much more than that. It bows out, and the requirement is for 50 feet. Could you cure that with a different configuration of a lot line? You could. You cut it like a little pie shape out of the back of the proposed lot. But now you've created a lot with another odd shape, makes no sense from a planning standpoint. That goes to really the C2 roots. Is it a better planning solution to have a regular shaped lot than to gerrymander the thing so you can meet a regulation, but you come up with a weird shaped lot? In my opinion, this proposal makes a lot of sense. The other variances, in terms of house size of the remaining lot, the existing home, that really results, it's 28 square feet. If anybody's had a chance to go out and look at the home, there's an old stairway off the side of that home that goes to the second floor that's covered. And that's the 28 square feet or more that is in excess of the calculation. In my opinion, it is certainly de minimis, has no impact on the shape configuration. And the bottom line is there is substantial impact on the neighborhood of the zoning plan. Who granting relief to that, I don't think you would find that coming to that conclusion. My opinion, the other variance, the garage is a block, is a block building at the far end of the property. It's probably been there as nearly as long as the home's there, a little over 100 years. I think the home was built in 1922, thereabouts. That's what it shows on the online anyway. It does not have an impact on, again, the neighborhood, in my judgment, pre-exists and conforms with the character of the neighborhood. There was a question in terms of parking earlier. It's not in any of the reports. I think Mr. Silma brought it up. I think the RSIS only goes up to 3 bedrooms, 4 now, 5 bedrooms. But the lot that has the larger home existing is twice the size of the requirements, there's no question that you could expand the driveway to provide adequate parking if necessary. The other lot is almost carbon copy of everything else down that side street. The homes are all two-story, they have a driveway, some on the side, some just up straight up to most of them on the side. And to parking to the rear. And would assume that the new construction will probably somewhat mirror that design feature of the street. My opinion, the application clearly is a sound planning solution. It is not an overdevelopment by any stretch. Both lots are significantly larger than required. And the variances are basically pre-existing. And would be unaffected whether you grant the subdivision or not. My opinion is that the plan, I want your approvals.
I'd like to hear more. The one indication that there's a variance is this lot width. And this is a very peculiar lot, and it's interesting that the concept of the width is now changed from what the original lot's width was, minimum width, which was the Liberty Arc, apparently, I guess was the original width, to now being the, I guess, east, where the garage is. essentially.
Right. That's that 43 wood.
Yeah, no, yeah, is that correct?
In terms of the dimension.
The concept, what's the, like, if you look at the 1501 lot as proposed, and you were to ask 10 people, you know, what's the width of this lot? Well, let's ask one, what you and John, what is the width of this lot?
It's an odd shape. What I typically do, and what the applicant did was took the shortest dimension and created the building.
Right.
There's nothing in the ordinance that talks about averaging of the widths. So you take the narrowest width and
The
you
narrowest.
identify it and you say that is in fact the variance. So it's correctly called out in the application.
Well, is it the width or the depth?
Well, that's because
They have to have a rear.
We're
Right.
the corner lot and we only have sides.
Right.
So technically, it's a width, not a depth, I guess.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry.
No, that's part of it, I just want to be sure we're.
I'm not sure that's true on a corner lot. I mean, I think they have to choose which is gonna be the front,
Right.
which usually it's the narrowest part. You'd have to really kind of read, 1210-3 E but it says at all points. Look at the lot, so it be at all points.
If they chose that the Liberty exposure and the Pine Street exposure was their front,
With 350 feet.
then what's the width of the lot?
You can't. I'm not sure if it gives them a choice. I have to read that section of the ordinance.
Well, it's a triple-sided frontage, right? So
Yeah.
what,
It's,
I'm trying to see if the variance is actually required.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You can-
the only,
I did go through the ordinance, I probably don't go through it as much as these gentlemen, but I couldn't find an averaging for this yet. So.
I don't even think it's an average. I
Oh,
think,
no, I
Hold it up like this.
Yeah.
It's 150 feet.
right, yeah, exactly.
And
And there's nothing that says depth, right? There's just width.
Correct.
And so, and lot circles, and, things like that, but I don't view that as, I think they comply. I know it's not stated that way on the survey, it's the most conservative approach to say, well, like you said, take the shortest side and we'll call that the width and then we'll seek a variance. It's like, from a planning perspective, I'm not sure that's true for this.
What do you consider the front of the house, where the pavers and the steps are?
You said maple.
The side with the, driveway off of Liberty is the most used, because that's where the driveway is.
Oh, so then you consider that the front, not the Maple Street frontage.
Maple Street.
Where's the front door?
No, the Maple, he hasn't, his pavers and steps are on Maple.
But there's also a portion.
Yeah, there's a drive, there's probably a door back there, too. I don't know.
There's 4 door exit.
Yeah, multiple doors, so.
That's,
It really comes down to what's the front first? Is it the 3 sides, you know, is it the Maple Pine Liberty triad, is that the front? And then if that's the front, then what are the other 2? And then their sides, and then what's the width of the property? Does it have 2 widths?
I looked at it,
I look at it as, if you think it complies, then I don't have an issue granting the variance. That's a cleaner way of just.
It covers everything.
It covers everything.
Take the
We're
worst
small, be
case.
conservative, and normally also to concur with, Board Member DeMarco. There's also the school of thought that the applicant requests what the relief the applicant needs.
Right.
And
It's a higher burden.
believes they need the relief.
The applicant came in with a request for a higher burden. And is not making the argument we're proposing, which is he doesn't need that burden. And
Right,
it's not our job to do his job, so my point is, this is the request, let's decide the request in front of us, and I think it's really. I mean, some of it, the minor width of 43 feet only runs for about 20 feet of the property, so it's not a minor width for the whole length of the property, it's really just that back corner. So it's really a minor deviation from anything. So I'm inclined to grant.
Well, and my argument is that, following yours, it's like, well, really, you can interpret this a lot of different ways. In one case, he doesn't even have a variance, so give it to him, because he's asking for the increased burden, but you could interpret this a lot of different ways.
well, it could be raised in the future. And if we, so our resolution is gonna address it.
Right.
I understand,
And,
I'm just,
and because it's a subdivision, when he sells the property, which is, I think it might be his intention, or whoever builds a house there.
I want to build a house.
Whatever, right? That parcel then comes to life cleaner with knowing everything that's there.
Applicants, well, when in doubt, an applicant,
work.
owner, seller,
if we were
purchaser
inclined to say,
would like to have the relief documented so that no one can run into a potential problem.
and if we were inclined to deny that relief, then the applicant would say, well, then that's not really the width of the property then. By these,
Yes.
rules, it's not the width, so I don't need the variance that you deny, but we're not.
But if they ask for it, then the board will make the determination.
Was that the only variance, the width, wasn't there?
The floor area, but I think we got it arguably de minimis
Which
number down to
was
28.
25 feet,
Yes.
28 square feet.
Square.
And I just wanna move on to the next.
In the garage.
And the garage is an existing.
Yes.
condition.
It's this,
And then not changing it.
which really is considered a porch and not necessarily living area.
All right.
I have a couple of quick questions if
Yeah, go ahead.
nobody else does.
Go ahead.
And I don't know, and Mr. Zabel might, I don't know if everything should be addressed that's on Mr. Zabel's report.
There weren't many issues that I identified other than, some clarifications in the zoning tables. There was an issue with the tank words, which was addressed. There
Okay,
was a question about whether this was a B4 variance or not. It's not, because this is the floor area as expressed by the borough's ordinance is not done as a ratio to gross area. It's a table. So it doesn't meet the definition under the land use law, therefore that does not trigger the variance, B4 variance, C variance, which we did already determined in the past, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
If I may just, when Mr. Sabo says D4, what he's saying is, I think Mr. Parker may have mentioned floor area ratio earlier. What he meant to say was floor area. If we're only talking about the floor area being deficient, that is a bulk variance. If it were actually a floor area ratio that was deficient, that would be a D4, a D variance. And we would not have jurisdiction, the zoning board of adjustment would have jurisdiction. So that's why everyone's clarifying for you that there's no jurisdictional issue, there's no D variance at issue. It is simply a bulk variance for a relatively modest deficiency in the floor area, not the floor area ratio.
And was that it, John? Yeah, that was the end of your.
Yeah, and again, what impressed me about the subdivision was they're creating a conforming lot that is actually oversized for the R5. And the remainder lot is still oversized for that zone. So I didn't see the impacts that we might otherwise have seen with the subdivision in R5. And it does reinforce the pattern of the lot characteristics that go down the street. So I really didn't have an issue.
Did you cover, not you, Bob, and you probably covered it, but the utilities? Remember, these are the lots where everyone says, oh, I can't bring the utilities underground, I have to bring them overground, that's the street
Yeah,
area.
I didn't address the utilities for the new lot. I just asked to make sure that all of the existing underground utilities don't cross the new lot line. But I didn't.
Is it expected that this new lot will have underground utilities? It's supposed to, right? It's in the area where it's supposed to be underground, right?
Yeah, the only thing is gonna be, I'm trying to remember on this one. Where the telephone poles are.
Then they keep over.
Wasn't there a private property where
Yeah, exactly.
same
Yeah.
situation,
Oh, yeah.
truly said they've been running
We've
underground?
had a few.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
Yeah, they want to put a new pole in and then run it underground and pole to the house. That's what
I
we.
think it was on the Garibaldi, it was on the
That's typically
Garibaldi
what's
Street
happened.
where was another subdivision.
On the last two, that's what's happened.
Yeah, we had two come back, right, and said, I can't do it, right? And maybe on Maple, that's not an issue, I don't know.
No,
It looks like there's a pole.
We're gonna make that a condition that it's underground to the house if.
But are we,
Well,
does the
something's
board
probably-
you're giving them relief prospectively to the extent they need it from the obligation?
I don't know how you do that as testimony.
Yeah, we don't know.
I think it's unfortunate they may, like everyone else, they had to come back, right? Cause it's an ordinance, it's in the ordinance and it's gotta be underground, right?
No, then they would have to come back.
It's RSAS now.
Then they might have to come back.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to raise.
No, it's unfortunate, but yeah.
Okay, so we'll be silent on that aspect.
Let's see what happens.
But you heard, so.
The,
Factor it into your cost.
just if I may, for clarity, then, the August 20 report, from Mr. Zabo, you're stipulating as conditions of approval to making all the clarification revisions therein, you've read it and can do so.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned and reviewed. Preparation, I basically go through your ordinance master plan, visit the site, and read all the reports. And response to Steve's question, yes.
Great, so they'll all be conditions of approval, and just, the clarification for the resolution, the proofs that you argued, as I understand them, we're all speaking to proofs with respect to the arguably de minimis floor area deficiency and the arguably de minimis, if any, lot width deficiency, and all the other, because the C1's not being argued presumably because the subdivision is causing, or was arguably, at least in part, causing those, two deviations. So that could possibly be a self-created hardship. So it's a C2 we're focusing on, correct? Okay. And and all the other existing non-conformities, as I understand it, are, none of them are being exacerbated by virtue of the subdivision. And if Mr. Zabel agrees to that, then the answer may be that you don't need any variance relief for any of those. Would that be, or maybe we should get both then?
We've given the proofs, the question of whether we need them or not. I think we had the discussion earlier. Someday this property is gonna be sold, they have a resolution addressing those non-conformities, and it makes it clean.
So they'll be addressed in the resolution, but we're not necessarily granting variance relief for them.
Yes.
It'll be reflected in the resolution if there's an approval that those are non-conforming conditions that are not being exacerbated by the proposal, and therefore no variance relief is necessary. And that I think would give the applicant what they're seeking.
Yes.
And Mr. Zabel, would that be accurate from your perspective?
Yes, and I just wanted to point out to the board, there is no definition for lot width or depth. So I think it's, better prudent to request it, because I think it requires a variance technically. The ordinance talks about at all points. And so it's short on that one point along, so there, it doesn't define version of that, so. And so another area that you might want to look at when we, if you're just like looking at code. Yeah, I mean, that would be very helpful to address that question. So prudent, abundance of caution.
Now, do you want to bring anything up?
No.
Okay. Also, based on prior experience of the subdivisions in this zone, is the lot to your north in any way encroaching today on your property? A driveway, a curb, anything, because it was kind of your backyard, it was, and in this area, spaces, at a premium, we have seen where someone's widened their driveway onto their neighbor's property. And since you're sworn in like testimony that, no, your lot's clear, there's no I see the fence is defined, fine, that's on the survey, but there's no drive, like a driveway off of Maple for your neighbor to your north. That's near your, well, it could be near, just not stepping on your property line.
Their driveway is 7 feet off the property line.
Their driveway is 7 feet off your property. Okay, just only because in other lots that hasn't been the case. All right, well, that's good. And it wasn't explicitly on the survey, it didn't have to be, but. Any other?
No, I'm good.
Any other?
Yeah.
No?
Well, good. I think the.
You
public
can
has no
summarize,
questions.
I guess he summarizes, right?
No, I don't think there's anything else necessary to be said.
Right.
I think we've dealt with all
No,
of
I'm saying, not you.
Council's just gonna.
Council just summarizes and says, please give me this, approval.
Oh, well,
Just say, please give me this.
So I would say, please grant us this approval.
Perfect.
Well done.
There you
Well
go.
done.
Okay, and you've been gathering your normal,
Well,
and,
my normal, abnormal, absolutely.
and so you want to.
Summarize the
do your
board and tee it up.
summary?
And please correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh,
but
sorry, there is no public.
No public, so no public comment on the record. And it's a minor subdivision approval with 2 bulk variances, 1 floor area deficiency, now recalculated to be, there's my little note there, 3,000, 3,280 square feet is required, 3,200 and I'm sorry, 3,205.9 square feet is the maximum permitted. And the floor area is actually 3,280. 29, I'm sorry, 29. Oh, I'm sorry, 29, therefore 28 square foot deficiency. Or exceedance, excuse me. And then, the lot width, is, at its narrowest point, 43.13 feet as opposed to 50 feet minimum required. Those are the two bulk variances, and you heard the arguments for that relief along with the minor subdivision. The conditions of approval are all those set forth in the August 20 memorandum of our planner, Mr. Zabo, and the August 13 memorandum, latest version from our engineer, Mr. Brightly, as well as the proper abandonment of the old septic tank system, as well as showing the location of the oil tank on the survey, so as to be not on proposed lot 15.02, the new resultant lot, but rather on another lot. And those are the only conditions. Beyond the two reports, everything else was captured in the reports. So that would be what the board is considering.
Pre-existing condition.
Well, and there'll be reference in the resolution that all the pre-existing non-conformities do not require variance relief because they're not in any way, shape, or form exacerbated by the subdivision.
Okay,
So if that is the desire of the board, it'd be a motion, second roll call vote, majority for passage.
I'll take a motion from someone.
I'll move the resolution.
Roll call.
Mr. DeMarco,
Yes.
Ms. Gardner is absent. Ms. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Mr. Harley,
Yes.
Mr. Simoff,
Yes.
Mr. Walden.
Yes.
And Mr. Zazarino.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Check out the power. I know.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's partial to have.
so we now have board review pending applications, just an awareness. So just reviewing. Equinet. Right. Equinet Properties, the latest is the applicant will be submitting revised plans.
They actually are supposed to be submitting in the next few days.
Right.
They're getting it together right now.
And we are. That was when we were granted, and we don't have a calendar yet, do we?
Who? Equinix?
Equinet.
No, not yet, because I
Okay, this
don't,
is not complete.
correct. We don't have anything yet.
They've actually done a little bit of, little maintenance on the property, that's all. Put a bit of, yeah, a little bar inside, it needed some, so. All right, then the second is, which has been scheduled, is the Beneficio Pugliese. For the final major site approval. It's incomplete, applicant has submitted revisions, this applicant has been scheduled for, our next meeting.
And the hard copies of the application are in front of everyone on the day.
Oh, that's this, right?
I figured
I
I'd
think I
say,
have two packets, but,
oh, okay, then I can pick one back.
oh, okay, unless somebody got one.
Are you making
Which
minutes?
one?
That's perfect.
I have,
May,
Or, Chad?
yeah, here's another extra.
Those days, Chad.
I'll put
Yes,
those,
Chad.
yeah, I didn't know whether or not Chad was.
Well, they went one conversation, we'll have another.
Okay. All right, great. So I have that in advance and the next thing is business of visitors. There are none. Was there anything else that came up on the agenda? No, okay. I have a couple of things, so the new business probably. You would have just received what the county has set out as the, and I think you would have gotten a copy, John, on it, but the kind of, how do you do a climate change?
Yeah.
Some adjustment to it.
It's a whole guidebook, yes.
A guidebook. And for John, we should read it, I guess, right? We should read it.
It would be helpful.
Would be helpful. And I know we approved it, right?
A couple of things. The borough, I understand, and I haven't been involved in this, is pursuing Highlands compliance. And the Highlands provides funding for housing plans, reexamination, and they have money for climate resiliency analysis. So, it could be that the town is waiting or is pursuing these other ways to fund some of these studies that we're talking about. I do want to clarify something for the benefit of the board and the public. Last meeting, I said that I reached out to the borough. We had sent an original proposal in 23.
Okay.
And it went to Frank and it got circulated. I updated that subsequently in February, thinking that it had been sent to administration. It never was. And so I wanted to apologize because it made it look like the administrator and Denise dropped the ball, but in actuality, they never got the revised proposal. The reason it was revised was 2024 rates changed. That's all that changed.
Yeah.
And that eventually is what you ended up with. But I just wanted to clarify because my comments made it seem like, administration just dropped the ball. And that's not the complete story. So I wanted to at least acknowledge that the true facts. The other thing I come to learn is that the town is going for Highlands conformity, and there's money there to do a lot of the planning work that the board is interested in.
Okay. Good.
So that may affect the budget.
I also just wanted to be sure, and this may be like, well, duh, of course, it's a no-brainer, that, because I haven't read it yet, but that document, which is long, and it's like.
It's a lot of work, it's why the proposal was.
That your efforts are complementary to that. In other words, there'd be stuff in the baseline. We're not reinventing anything. You're just dragging it in and we're paying for the value add of an increased product.
It's a data analysis to look at what the actual risks are, more so than a planning document. Because what you're looking at is where is the borough's exposure to climate events.
Right.
And so it's really compiling in data and analyzing the data and then organizing it in a way that the DEP is suggesting in their guidance, so that the public understands and it will guide decision-making for not only the planning board, but also the entire community and the borough.
Right.
That's the whole purpose, because obviously things are ratcheting up, and things are getting more severe, so preparedness and understanding risks. And it's gonna inform planning because, well, you're gonna avoid creating additional exposures to climate events.
Well, I'm dealing with it right now, and, it's coming up by my initiative in the context of what is before the council in terms of what to do with polo field. So, in terms of climate change, disasters, things like that. So it's very relevant.
With what, Mr. Chairman?
In terms of being prepared for climate in the polo field as a recovery site.
Oh.
As provisioning it, so it could be a tent city, as provisioning it, what do you do when, you've lost downtown Bernardsville, that kind of thing, where do people go, what are they gonna do? So it's already starting to come into play. So that's great. I mean, it'd be nice if we had done it earlier, but, it's There's,
But there's time.
there's an urgency.
There is a, that was the other thing, I used the word strongly worded letter, what I really meant was urgency.
Yeah,
Letter.
okay,
It implied that somehow, you should be hammering administration, no, it's to express the urgency that the board feels in addressing this
yeah,
issue.
and getting more
really what the
definition,
intention
on that, so.
I hope that
We
clarifies.
saw it come up in one application as well, the whole concept. The other item that it's related, is that we're doing this recreation plan thing. Somehow, I guess we're getting them to present. I want us to supplement that. Not just bulk accept it, but I want this board to supplement, or want this board to consider supplementing it with a more thorough plan for the polo fields than would be in the recreation plan. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, thank you very much, and great, and here's like this massive thing as part of the recreation plan, but, oh, by the way, here's an expanded view of, that takes their recommendations and adjusts them, optimizes them, plans them a little more thoroughly as to what might be done in the polo fields. Also, possibly 267, 271, whatever it is, Minebrook Road, that whole great big plot, and some of the original hopes, and now they're revised and so forth. So I want this board to realize that, and maybe bringing to this board some suggestions about fleshing out some of those planning visions for polo field and for 267, 271, whatever, that large area. So, anyway, it's just more, it's an opportunity to express more clarity if the board, decides that, yeah, let's go ahead, let's express more clarity, But it's supplemental to the bulk of the work, which is the rec plan.
I am proposing to proceed on that.
I have to get that plan together. The recommendations, I'll put together the suggested recommendations, we can discuss it, refine it, we can, and maybe we could have a work session, or a piece of a session, to cover it. It's not gonna be crazy, it's just, okay, this is a bit more detail. The only other issue that I've brought up to the council, you would have gotten a letter, is the Quimby Lane stuff and the post office. And I don't think it's in our board scope really to provide necessarily any feedback directly to the council on canceling the post office, but not having a plan for where the post office is gonna go. So.
I don't think we
I don't
have
think it's
that
our
reach.
reach,
Yeah,
yes.
unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
So. I've taken the initiative to send a letter to council about, well, you didn't get it now, but, it's the council, I'm just
In January.
assuming, yes. Well, it was a letter it's a letter to the, editor of the post office, so I haven't actually sent it to council yet. Whatever, beyond our reach, just so you know. If anyone has any great ideas where to put the post office, that would be helpful. Anything else?
Is there any update on any litigation that,
Do we need any executive session?
Well, I would address it in executive session, we can have an executive session on the 24th. But we have a standby on our agenda, but I think we'll utilize it on the 24th, I think that timing would work, and I can give the board an update. As to that pending litigation.
Anything else? Okay, then, we're adjourned. Adjourned.
He's gonna bring up modern law.
Thanks, everybody.
It's only 2 years, we're retired.
That was 4 years ago.